the button and get my notes up. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Oregon Fan Show, the podcast where we talk with Duck fans and college football experts about the things that make us want to shout. It's no shave Wednesday on the show. We ain't got time to bleed. But our next guest is Jackson Johnson, co-host of the Alabama Voice of College Football Network and SEC college football expert. He's also a member of the Football Writers Association. Jackson, it is great to have you on. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. It's a good time for a long time, getting ready for the college football season. How are you doing today, good buddy?
Outstanding. I'm having so much fun doing this, talking to people like you, and especially because we get to talk to different fans from around the country. There's a lot that makes us different, but the one thing we've all got in common, the one thing we all love, is college football.
There we go. Especially when you get to stay up late until like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning watching college football.
I love that. Does your wife let you get away with that?
Oh, I'm not married. That's the thing.
Okay. That'll be an important thing to consider when you start getting serious about somebody.
Will do. I'll definitely make sure of that.
Tell us, okay, you're a member of the Football Writers Association of America. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. How did you get involved in that, and how did you reach that level of professionalism in your
Well,
career?
yeah, because I saw there's like a $50 a month membership thing. So I decided, you know what? Yeah, because it was like, I saw that unfortunately, like the University of Alabama wasn't like they're not really taking the University of the Voice College Football very seriously. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a member of the FWAA. And plus, I write articles for the Voice College Football website. So, like, along with doing the Alabama channel, the SC channel, doing my personal show, the Jacksonian, and I'm also partners with a man named Mountaineer Paul, host of Locked On West Virginia, on a channel called College Sports Insiders. So, I'm just kind of all over the place. So, I decided, like, after I got turned down, like, me and my co host on the Alabama channel got turned down by the University of Alabama because they're not ready for the Voice College Football yet. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and become a membership of the FWAA. And plus, it would be pretty cool to be a part of that membership, because like you get to take part in like who's part of the awards in the world of college football, like, the Belenkinoff Award and, the Ray Guy Award and such.
So you're voting on those.
Somewhat, yes.
That's pretty cool stuff. I mean, those are some of the most prestigious awards in the country. Who do you like in Alabama to win a national award this year?
I think Coleman Williams can get an award this year. I think he can if he really plays his cards right. I know Lorsan Quinn is considered for the Lou Graza Award. That's another one. Now, if he can have some clutch field goals from 50 plus yards, he'll really be good to go. Because I know, like, everybody keeps talking about the quarterback situation for Alabama. And I know some people have really talked about the offensive lines, the running game. But two things I've not heard people talk about enough were the offensive line and the kicking game. Because, I mean, Connor Talty was not doing so hot on the kicking game. Hence why Alabama got Lorsan Quinn from Marshall, who was making clutch kits all over the place for the 2025 season. And you look at his stats on where he's kicked for 40 plus yards or 50 plus yards. Hot dang, I'll tell you, Alabama was happy as a pig in mud to get him. They were happy to get him, as well as they should be. And then, the offensive line situation, everybody talked about how, like, the running game was just a disaster for the Crimson Tide. I mean, it was 127th in the nation. That's how bad it was, right? So Alabama decided, you know what, we got to get rid of Chris Kaplivic. That offensive line coach has got to go. And what happens next was unbelievable because we got Adrian Clem, and you and I have talked a little bit about him on Ets. And honestly, like, Dude was amazing at SMU and UCLA. I mean, a lot of people here talk about the magic they created at Oregon, creating the number one offensive line for 2022. But this guy made magic at UCLA in 2012, 2015, right? Everybody was talking about like that rise that UCLA had where they were competing for the Pac 12. Well, Adrian Clem played a huge part in it. And SMU, when the 80s and 90s, like after like the death penalty, SMU was just going downhill. They were just a disaster. I mean, they were happy about beating Connecticut football. Connecticut football. That's bad. That's bad. And that was like the first year back after the death penalty. And it was just losing season after losing season after losing season. They see June Jones become the Nets head coach in '08, and they have another pitiful season. But then they turn it around, go 7-6, go to the Hawaii Bowl. And guess who played a huge part in it? Adrian Clem, helping June Jones turn around that offensive line. Same thing in 2010 and 2011. There's a reason why he got promoted to assistant head coach. That was why.
Adrian Clem is a ball coach. He's a guy who knows how to teach the offensive line and develop one.
Oh, yeah. He does. And he's going to get those guys ready, man. Like he's getting those Alabama guys ready for 2026. And why USC did not promote him from within is beyond me. But I think they're going to find out how big of a loss that is for the 2026 season.
Be interested to see how that goes. We're talking with Jackson Johnson from the Alabama Voice of College Football Network, a member of the Football Writers Association and host of the Jacksonian. Did I get all those right?
Host of Jacksonian and a co-host of College Sports Insiders. No worries if you don't get it all. It's all good. I'm all over the place on the internet.
Well, it's good to be that kind of guy. You got to do enough work to make a living and keep going and build your brand.
There you go. I mean, that's what I'm doing. Just keeping things rocking and rolling here and there on my end, just waiting it out for week 0 to come in. Right now it's 17 days until week 0 as we're recording this as of right now. But when it gets released, it might be a whole different story.
Now, I try to get this up as soon as possible. It's great to have a conversation with you. There's one thing I wonder about with Alabama football, Jackson, is Kalen DeBoer was an awesome coach in the Pac-12 and got his team to the national championship and licked the Ducks 3 years in a row. We were kind of glad to see him go. But at Alabama, it hasn't been as smooth a transition. Are Alabama fans still patient? Are they still sold on him?
I think so. Well, guys like me are sold on Caleb DeBoer. I'm good to go with him. But some Alabama fans are just ready to throw in the towel, just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. But, you know what it feels like to me, Dale? It somewhat feels a little bit like the Ray Perkins era from 1983 to 1986, where, he replaced Bear Bryant, and that was going to be an impossible task no matter what. And I mean, no matter who took over as the Nets head coach, it could have been the school janitor taking over as head coach. And you would have had an impossible job, especially taking over for Nick Saban, right? And it's funny, though, like when Saban retired, it was also the same day that Pete Carroll was not going to be coaching the Seahawks anymore. That was a wild day in all of football as a whole. Like nobody thought that was going to happen, right? But, DeBoer, like the magic he created at Fresno State, the magic he created at Washington in the 2 years he was there, he's going to create some of that magic at Alabama. He's making the moves that he's needed to make. Because, I mean, he was like, okay, Kaplivic got to go. He's got to go. He's out. And the offense coordinator situation, right? Because, like, you got to remember, he was going to bring Ryan Grubb with him for 2024. But then Ryan Grubb got a call from the Seattle Seahawks and went to Seattle. I mean, you don't pass up a chance in the NFL. But, when the Seahawks removed his keister, Alabama was like, okay, we got to get Grubb to come back to be offensive coordinator. So Kalen DeBoer will make the moves that are necessary. And I understand like some people are kind of nervous, but one thing to really look at is how Alabama does against top 25 teams, especially in the big games,
Mm.
like the Georgia of the world, like the Tennessee's of the world. Do not let the Rose Bowl fool you. Do not let the loss in the SEC title game fool you. Watch what they did in the regular season last year. Watch what they did in 2024. They always do well against ranked teams. But one thing that's different in the DeBoer era, and one thing that's different from the Saban era that people have gotten nervous about, as you've noted, Dale, is that Alabama loses like that one game they shouldn't lose. Now, I've often criticized Miami for that with Mario Cristobal, where like I mentioned, where like Oregon lost that one game they shouldn't have, but always won the big games under Mario Cristobal. Particularly, they beat Ohio State in their own backyard, big noon kickoff in 2021, but then randomly blew it against Stanford a few weeks later in 2021. Miami tends to do that a lot, and now we see Alabama doing that. They win the top 25 games. They win the big matchups on Saturday Night Football with Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit at the dog calling the game. But then you see him losing that random obscure game against Vanderbilt in 2024. You see him losing that random obscure game against Florida State. Are they going to lose a random obscure game against Kentucky, South Carolina, and then later beat Georgia and everybody else on their schedule? Or is it just going to be 11-1, 10-2, do just enough, get into the playoffs? I think that's the question Alabama wants to know for 2026.
It's great. Why do you think it is they have that random clunker loss?
Because they're not, I think it has a little bit to do with the strength of conditioning. I think it's a little bit to do with that. But I think like the opponents that play Alabama, when they see Alabama, no matter what version it is, they always bring their best A game. And you know, when you saw Alabama teams under Saban, you saw Alabama treating their opponents like it was the national championship every week. But you're not seeing that as much with Kayla DeBoer with some teams. And I think that's what some people are really nervous about. And one thing to really keep in mind is that Alabama Kentucky game could be an upset alert. And if Kentucky was to upset Alabama, it would be the first time since 1997, which was, I believe, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5 days after I was born on October 4th of 1997, which was in Lexington. Kentucky has never beaten Alabama in Tuscaloosa. The closest they come to was in 2008 on October 4th of 2008.
Jackson, I admire your young, facile mind that you can just pick out all these games and all this history. The history of college football is one of the most exciting and interesting part of the game to me.
Oh man, that's one of my favorites is going over history, and especially in the world of college football. I stay up late for it, you know.
What got you started? What gave you this hunger for the game?
Well, to tell you the truth, it was my grandfather that got me into it. Like my grandfather, my mom's side of the family, he got like some of these like Bama's Grace Gates VHS tapes. I watched some of them. It was like the 61 Alabama Auburn game or Joe Namath's debut on 1962 of Alabama Georgia, where they shut out the Georgia Bulldogs. And I got to tell you, Bear Bryant, when he was like narrating that, he sounded like a 30-year-old man. I swear, he sounded like a 30-year-old dad who's raising his second kid. And like the 67 Sugar Bowl, he sounds like a 40-year-old dad with 4 kids. But it was fun watching those games. And the 92 SEC title game, that was fun. And, you know, we always watched a lot of the games, so it was fun. And, you know, like, I remember, like, one game I really watched when I was little was the '04 Liberty Bowl. That was a classic. Between Boise State and Louisville. Louisville won a tight one. That was pretty fun to see that.
Who was the star of that game? Do you remember?
Oh man, it's gonna take. Well, I know Jared Zambransky was in his sophomore year
Oh,
at
yeah.
Boise State, but that was the second to last year Dan Hawkins was there at Boise State. That was Louisville's last year in the Conference USA before they joined the Big East.
I got to say, Jackson, I love the Boise State program. Now, they have took the Ducks to the woodshed unexpectedly 3 different times, and Oregon's never covered against the Broncos. But I mean, I love the way that fan base embraces that team and the blue field and players like Zabransky and Kellen Moore. When I was a boy, my first job when I was 15 years old was pitching watermelons in the field for Steve Zabransky, Jared's father.
Nice. Oh man, that's so awesome.
I don't know if you've ever done work like that. That is some of the hottest, dirtiest work you can possibly do. The only thing worse is bucking bales.
Oh man. I mean, I've done some yard work, but I know like last night I went out frog gigging looking for some frogs out on the porch.
Frog gigging. What do you do with them after you gig them?
They gotta go bye-bye. That's what they have to do. They gotta go bye-bye.
So
They gotta tell all their frog friends that don't come around here.
So you're just killing them for sport.
Well, not exactly. I just kind of keep them away from my family.
All right. I can see that. I mean, after all, they're reptiles. They carry amphibians. They carry diseases and whatnot.
Well, and tell you the truth, it was the first time I'd done it in a few years, really, because I used to do that a lot in my late teens, early 20s. Like, anytime my folks heard some frogs, they were like, Jack, you got to get the frog egg out. Like, I'm coming. Like,
Jackson, I have heard that in Alabama, that you almost have to choose by the time you're old enough to talk. Are you an Alabama fan or an Auburn fan? And when a new person moves into the neighborhood, the folks go over to their door and say, "Who are you for?"
yeah, there's a lot of that in Alabama. There's a lot of that.
How about you? How about you as a reporter? Do you cover both the Tide and the Tigers, or strictly Alabama?
Well, I cover strictly Alabama on Alabama with the Voice College Football, but I know I cover Alabama and Auburn on the SEC channel, of course. I mean, I cover everybody in the SEC, along with my guys, Tucker Harlan and Andrew Miller on the SEC channel. But on the College Sports Insider show, I cover a little bit of everybody. And on the Voice College Football website, I cover everybody as well. So it's like I'm keeping an eye on everybody like a dog.
So I don't forget, please give where people can find you. Tell us where your channels are, your socials, and so on.
Well, they can find my personal YouTube channel at Jackson Johnson 979. So that is on where I host my show, The Jacksonian. You can find me on College Sports Insiders at youtube.com/ at College Sports Insiders 2026. And you can find me Mondays and Thursday nights on Alabama with the Voice College Football at Alabama VOCFB. You can find me on SEC at the Voice College Football at SEC VOCFB. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, I want to say, and 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm making sure I'm getting those time zones correct because, in case I'm traveling, I want to make sure I get all the time zones right.
Man, they will trip you up. I want to have both Duck fans and National College Football experts on this show. And sometimes you really have to do math in your head, make sure you're in the right tight zone when you're talking and scheduling.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, because it was like, one of the first times I did, stuff like this, I wanted to make sure I got the time zones correct. I was like, oh yeah, everybody's not in my time. I got to consider, California time. I got to consider New York time. I got to consider time in Florida or time in North Dakota and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, Utah time. They're an hour behind us.
Yeah, and there are places where they stay on standard time and stay on daylight time. And there are states like Idaho where part of the state is mountain and part of the state is Pacific. It can get really crazy.
Oh, it's insane. It's crazy. The time zones get crazy.
One time I used to work for Michael Collins at Fanside, a great guy, a big Georgia fan,
Oh
and
wow.
had a long career in the business. And I once missed a meeting with him because I was in the wrong time zone in my head. You know,
Oh
it's
no.
pretty bad when you miss a meeting with your boss because you screwed up the time zone.
Oh no. Like I hope he didn't go too hard on you.
Well, it was a little uncomfortable, let's say. Let's say he blistered me like I missed a block in the fourth quarter.
Oh my god. Oh no. Oh man. Oh man.
Hey, Jackson, who do you see as the real favorite in the SEC this year?
Well, right now, I think Georgia and Texas will play in the SEC title game. I think Georgia wins it. I got Alabama beating Georgia in the regular season, but I feel like once again, you're going to see Georgia win the SEC, become close but no cigar in another national championship run. And I think they're going to have some serious conversations about Mike Bobo in the offseason as the offensive coordinator.
They need a little more consistency from the offense, especially in big games.
Oh yeah, because I mean he does great in the regular season, but he's a disaster in the postseason. And don't be surprised if you see. And I don't want to get Oregon fans' hopes up or anything, but I would not be surprised if I catch Oregon winning it all, or if I see Notre Dame winning it all. Those two teams are my two favorites. Because I mean, like Dante Moore did not come back for 2026 just so Oregon could be runner up or losing the semifinals. I feel like that's a team that can break through. I would not be surprised if they didn't win the Big Ten title or not make it to the Big Ten title, but they go in a long run to the national championship.
What do you like about the Ducks?
I like their whole receiving core. I like their offense. I like Dante Moore coming back. I think that's a tremendous positive. I like Rayola just sitting there waiting in the wings for when his time comes. I think it's gonna be exactly like when Dante Moore was sitting there waiting in the wings for his turn because he was like, "I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go UCLA. I'm leaving this place called Oregon. Oh nope, never mind, never mind. That's dysfunctional. I'm gonna wait for my turn." And I think Oregon's gonna be all right. I mean, like Lanning, I think can get a national title in this decade, if not this year sometime in the decade of the 2020s, the rest of this decade. He just has it in him, honestly. And if he does, not if, but when, there's gonna be a statue built of him. There's gonna be like a Netflix documentary or an Amazon Prime movie about him.
The Lannings have such a great story, not just his rise as a football coach, but how he got his first job, how he did everything up to pouring the coffee and scrubbing the floors to get to move up in the ranks, and then defensive coordinator at Georgia in 2021 wins the national championship.
Oh yeah. How funny would it be if Oregon went against Georgia in the Natty? Like, how funny would that be?
A rematch. One of the things that Lanning has studied in the offseason is how to play better in rematches. Last time they played the Dogs, they lost 49-3 in his very first game as a head coach. And you hope that rematch maybe be a little more competitive game.
Oh yeah. Well, I know this. Like one team that's gonna get the Matt Dillon backhand slap is gonna be the USC Trojans. Like Oregon's gonna be going against USC, and it's gonna be like a Matt Dillon backhand slap from Gunsmoke.
I like it. Matt Dillon backhand slap. Then he'd go and have coffee with Miss Kitty.
Yep, there we go.
That's
That's
pretty.
what Oregon's gonna be doing.
That's some vivid language. I can see why you're a member of the Football Writers Association. Uh, Now, that USC game on the 28th of September, that's by then, Oregon's got to figure out that rotation on the offensive line.
Yeah. They gotta have that figured out. But like one thing I've noticed about USC under Lincoln Riley, is that they cannot get it done in the big games, especially the regular season. Because like when USC hired Lincoln Riley, they were under the impression that it was going to be exactly like Pete Carroll. It was going to be exactly like that. But I don't think like Lincoln Riley took into consideration that USC was going to the Big Ten. And honestly, I thought he was going to bail on USC just like he did Oklahoma when Oklahoma was joining the SEC. But, like USC, like the best season they had was the first season, which I mean, it wasn't surprised that they were going to surprise everybody by having a top-notch 11-win season. I mean, Phil still had them as his number one surprise team in 2022. But I mean, like, it was no surprise to me because it was like, you got Caleb Williams transfer from Oklahoma to USC. You're going to be winning all over the place. But Utah coming over and destroying the dreams not once but twice for USC, that basically put a damper on their season. And then, like, blowing that 2-touchdown lead with less than 5 minutes left in the game in the Cotton Bowl. That's a terrible look for the USC Trojans right there. But then just going 8-5, and yeah, you beat Louisville in the Holiday Bowl, but that's not what USC had in mind. Going 7-6, winning against Texas A&M in the Las Vegas Bowl, not what they had in mind. USC blowing a shot at victory against Illinois, and just coming up close but no cigar against Oregon the week before rivalry week, and losing in your last game against Notre Dame. Now, that's not right, calling that the last game of Notre Dame USC. But we got to wait till 2030. It's like, ugh. But anyway, USC just blowing it on 3rd and long against TCU in the Alamo Bowl. Now, that had to have made USC fans mad as a cottonmouth snake. That had to have made them mad as a cottonmouth. Because, I mean, like, you don't do that. You don't do that. You know what it feels like to me, Dale?
What's that?
Lincoln Riley to USC feels a little bit like Jimbo Fisher to Texas A&M, but without the 5-7 season, without like a 4-8 season, because like those came in with high expectations. Jimbo was going to come in and get a national title for Texas A&M. He didn't even come close to an SEC West Division title or an SEC title, let alone national title or a playoff trip. The best season they had was the COVID season. Same thing with Lincoln Riley. The best season they had was the 2022 season, an appearance in the Cotton Bowl where they blew a 2-touchdown lead against Tulane. And now, if you see USC going 9-3 this year, I don't think you're not going to see Riley getting fired, but I think you could see him on a very humongous hot seat in 2027.
Jackson, how much difference is Gary Patterson going to make taking over the defense?
I hope he makes a lot of difference, but he's been out of football for a little bit. He's been just kind of sitting and chilling for a little bit. So hopefully a lot of difference for their sake, but I would say about like maybe a 20% difference. So we'll see.
We will see. That's the fun part. It all gets going now in 24 more days.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. 24 days till kickoff.
I meant to ask you, what in the world happened with Ryan Williams? In that Georgia game his freshman year, he looked like an all-time great.
Oh, man. Like, he was a legend on that week of 2024. But I think a lot of it was, in 2025, it wasn't all on him. Because like you got Lazier Brooks, you had Jeremy Bernard, Ty Simpson was throwing to all those other guys. So that's why it kind of looked like there was like a sophomore slump, which I mean, it was, but it wasn't really all on Ryan Williams in 2025. But I think you're going to see a way better season in 2026 than you did last season with Ryan Coleman Williams.
They've got another receiver who's really good and is kind of taken over as the number one target, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because we got Coleman Williams. We got Lazier Brooks as 1 and 2. But number 3, it could be Rico Scott. It could be Cedarian Morgan, the true freshman. Or it could be, his name is slipping on me, but I know that Derek Meadows, that's the man. And one of them is probably going to break out in the first 5 weeks of the season because you got Noah Rogers, the North Carolina State transfer, who's out due to injury. And he's going to come back in October and November, basically make a huge difference for the Crimson Tide. Now, do I think, and I'll tell you this, I think Sedary Morgan can make a huge difference to the point where he can have a similar season in 2026 to what Ryan Coleman Williams had in 2024 if things break his way, especially in the first 5 weeks of the season. Because, I mean, that's a pretty good slate you got. You got East Carolina. You got to go Kentucky. You got Florida State coming to your backyard. You got South Carolina coming to your backyard. And then you got to go to Mississippi State on October 3rd. So that looks like a pretty easy slate. But do not treat those games as if they're the easiest games on the planet. Do not treat them like cream puffs. You got to treat them like they're the biggest games in the world. Because when you do that, then you'll be good to go.
You got to play to your standard to find out what your standard is.
Yeah. And, I'm curious about Oregon for 2026. Like, it's going to be fun seeing them open up against Boise State. Like, on the one hand, it kind of feels weird, like saying Boise State's in the Pac-12, but on the other hand, I feel weird calling it a Big Ten Pac-12 game because it's like, in a perfect world, that would be a Pac. It would be a Pac game, honestly. Boise State and Oregon. Like, I mean, like there's so many memorable games. Like the '08 game, that was unexpected for a lot of people on September 20th of 2008 on pay-per-view and on Thursday Night Football. Sorry in advance for mentioning this. The LeGarrette Blunt Punch at midnight and at 1 o'clock in the morning in the Eastern Time at Boise, Idaho on ESPN on September 3rd of 2009, 19-8.
That was a shocking game. Jackson, the Ducks did not make a first down until the third quarter.
Yeah, they were closer to having a drink at the Long Branch with Miss Key than they were getting a touchdown that night. It was like, good grief.
Yeah, it was really ugly. And the thing with LeGarrette Blunt, I read about that, or excuse me, I wrote about that a couple of years ago when I was working for Athlon Sports. And it was a combination of frustration, the wrong guy saying the wrong thing at the right time, and things just got out of hand. One of the uglier incidents in sports history.
Yeah, and it was like, and I'm glad to see like Blunt learned from that experience, and things worked out for him in the end. Like pretty good football career. In the pros, like
3 rings.
Yeah, I mean, like there you go. I mean, like it worked out well. He learned from what to do, what not to do, and the thing I always remember is the smart man learns from his mistakes, but the wise man learns from others' mistakes.
That's a good piece of advice. I'm finding doing this, trying to do a podcast and so forth. I learned something every time from my guests, which I appreciate you for, and just by making mistakes, I'm like 18 episodes in now, and every time, okay, so that's how you do that, and okay, that won't work. I'll just admit it because it's kind of a funny story. I had this great interview with Ryan Winter of Sports Chat 503, a really great guy in our market. I mean, he's engaging and funny and a big personality. He's like a big old bear. And we were having this great conversation. Well, I didn't press the blue button in the right-hand corner of the screen, and it was all dead air. We had our conversation with ourselves.
Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, man.
That was a pretty big boof.
Well, I remember like our guy at the Michigan channel, TJ, who was when he was the operations manager at the Voice College Football Network, he told me at one point that it takes 10 to 15 episodes to get used to everything. And once you've got everything all set, you'll be able to get it figured out.
I'm hoping so. I'm 70 years old, so it'll probably take me twice that many. But it was tremendous to have you on today. You're funny, you're engaging, you have an exhaustive knowledge of not just Alabama football, but college football as a whole landscape. And I really appreciate your insight and you taking the time to visit with us.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for having me on, good buddy. And I will say, tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix and Kroger about the magic that Del Bliss brings, all right here on the Oregon Fan Show at Oregon at the Voice College Football, and the magic that EJ Daniels and Matthew Willinger bring on Oregon at the Voice College Football, Oregon Ducks Live, and the magic that Del Bliss brings on the Autzen Zoo at fansided.com.
Man, I'm going to cut that out and use it as a commercial. I want you to be, in addition to all your other jobs, I want you to be my agent.
There we go. I like it.
Jackson, have a great day, and I appreciate you.
I appreciate you for having me on, man. Stay safe, stay cool, stay away from that heat. It's hot out.